Thank you for joining me today. I'm in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 10. As you know, I read through the scripture each year and often get through a little more often than just once a year. And so right now I happen to find myself in Deuteronomy. This is the second law, the Moses reiteration of the law just before he passes and goes into heaven. And so, as the Lord gives him an opportunity to look over and survey the whole land of Palestine that that the people are going to experience, a land flowing with milk and honey, as they called it. And Moses, because of his sin, wasn't able to go in. And so he now is giving these people the final instructions before he passes and Joshua takes over the leadership. And in chapter 10, Moses makes this statement. He says, "And now, Israel, what does the Lord your God require of you? But to fear the Lord your God, to walk in all his ways, to love him, to serve the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul, and to keep the commandments and statutes of the Lord, which I'm commanding you today for your good." Now, this particular passage is reiterated later on in the book of Micah, where in chapter 6, Micah says, "What does the Lord require of you but to do justly and to love mercy and to walk humbly with your God?" Very similar to what he says here in Deuteronomy chapter 10. But it's not just those things. Those things were specifically applications in Micah's day. Here, Moses gives a more broad understanding of what that requirement is. And that is, it starts with the fearing of the Lord. To fear the Lord. What does that mean? You see that phrase in a lot of different places, in a couple of places in Proverbs and in the Psalms. We are to fear the Lord. Does it mean that we're to be people who cower in a corner and shake and tremble? And I don't think that's what he has in mind. There is a good reason why that could be what he expects of us. Later on in the book of Hebrews, it says it's a terrifying thing to fall into the hands of the living God. So when God is angry, of course, yes, we should cower in that corner. But generally speaking, to fear the Lord means that we're going to listen to his voice, that we're going to obey his voice. Now, we can't do it perfectly, as you know, but we're to do that in a way that shows that we respect and live in awe of him. And I want you to notice here in verse 13 of this particular passage that it says that this is all for our good. What a wonderful truth that is in verse 13. But it's interesting that he goes on and he keeps on explaining what it means to love the Lord your God with all of our hearts. And he talks about circumcising our hearts. Now, circumcision, of course, was something that the Jewish people did as a sign of the covenant that they had with God. But Moses is saying it's not just an external thing. And Paul, the apostle, makes that statement also in the book of Romans, chapter 2, where he says circumcision is of the heart and not of the flesh. He says that again in the book of Colossians, in chapter 2 of Colossians. So this idea is consistent throughout the scripture, Old and New Testament. And this is what the Lord requires, that fearing him involves a heart knowledge of him. Now, we in the church believe that he is a person, and that he is one who has personality. We get to know him in the same way that we would get to know any other person. And so this circumcision of our hearts is an expression that Moses and later Paul use in order to express that we need to have tender hearts with him and to walk faithfully with him. He goes on and he speaks of other things that we do in order to fear him. And these, of course, are the things that he requires. He speaks about justice for the fatherless and the widows, and that is paralleled then in the book of Micah. He talks about loving the one who is the alien and the sojourner. And these are also very important qualities that we as his people in this age also need to be doing. What does the Lord require of you? He wants you to fear the Lord. And we recognize that just as with Micah, in our day it means justice, and it means mercy, and it means humility before him. And we need, as a result of all of those things, to circumcise our hearts. Father, I ask you to help us to have tender hearts toward you, to listen faithfully to the words of your scripture. I pray, Father, that you would give us hearts of obedience and faithfulness to you, to remember and keep your commandments. And we thank you for the many promises that are made when we do that. And so, Father, draw near to us and help us, and may we follow you faithfully. In Jesus' name, amen. God bless you. I hope you have a great day.